And so we had four committees. So we had research and development, which was responsible for really thinking about like an operational definition of like what Black Studies was, from a scholarly standpoint, but also like what did Black Studies departments across the country look like? When were they founded? What were their structures? How many faculty did they have? The research and development committee also was responsible for digging and finding the processes of departmentalization at Stanford, which were extremely difficult to find. And to this day, I don't think I have a direct answer about what it takes to form a department at Stanford. And I'm sitting on the committee for departmentalization, but that information is not like just written out anywhere in stone. But they did piece together a lot of like the process for departmentalization, precedent for recent departments that have been developed at Stanford in like the past few decades. And so that was what the research and development team was doing, and also having like behind the scenes conversation with faculty who were either doing Black Studies work or doing work that was centering Black communities in some way, to think about their level of investment, right? So would they be willing to join a department in African American studies? This was what the research and development section of our action committee was doing. We also had our coalition building community, which was really responsible for getting collective buy-in from campus. The coalition building group was responsible for reaching out to other spaces on campus, like the Black Community Services Center, the Black Law Student Association, and really bridging connections, the Black alumni, and thinking about how we could all build momentum to really push the department or push the university to take this next step. And so we developed the Black Student Town Halls during that academic year, which didn't previously exist, at least not in this form. And this was a space where the Black Student Union and Black Graduate Student Association brought different leaders and organizations across campus to come and talk about what they were doing, because we really felt like there was a lack of like connection and mutual awareness of like what was going on in the Black community. But it served two purposes, right? On one hand, we wanted to create a space where Black community could convene. So you might have the president of the National Black Alumni Association, you might have the president of another organization, but we also wanted to build a critical mass of support for AAAS departmentalization. So we were meeting like multiple needs simultaneously. Third, we had the external relations group. We knew that in order to really draw attention to this effort, Stanford would in part have to be shamed into taking action. And so the External Relations Committee was responsible for reaching out to media outlets on campus and off campus. So we worked very closely with the Stanford Daily, thanks to Lio. And we also reached out to a number of other news outlets. And lastly, and probably most importantly, we had education and training. These folks on the Social Action Committee were responsible for our teach-ins. And I think our teach-ins were so important to ensuring that the community was educated about what Black Studies is. And I know later, I think you're gonna ask about, some of the challenges that we faced as a committee. But I'll just speak briefly about this now. I think some of the definitional dilemmas around what Black Studies is and what a AAAS department should look like was, I wouldn't say a source of like contention, but I think there are different ideas, right? So a part of the reason why I think Stanford neglected to invest and value AAAS is because I think that a lot of people associate Black Studies with Black history. And a component of Black Studies is understanding Black history, but I think that there are theoretical and empirical contributions that have come out of a field where scholars are engaging in work around Blackness and how it shapes society that really the broader community did not understand or recognize or realize existed. And so I think the education and training group, through the teach-ins, played a really important role in educating the campus community on what Black Studies is, and why it's important to invest in Black Studies, and not just for the AAAS department, but for all disciplines. For sociology, for anthropology, for English and modern thought and literature, like how the intersections happen. And so these four subsections made up our committee.